Hey everyone, this is Mike, and today it's time for our last job on the list, Astrologian. For the most part, my initial impressions are very positive for this job, but there is one aspect of it that I'm not as much of a fan of, and yes, it has to do with the cards. If you're playing Astrologian as a more casual player and you're just pressing your buttons as they become ready, then you'll probably not really have this issue, but when you're playing Astrologian to get the most out of it, then the 2-minute burst window is going to be really busy, a little bit too busy if you ask me. In our static we even started calling it card brain, because when it's that time of the fight, then our Astrologian is just so focused on cards that you'll have to wait a few seconds before you can get anything else out of her. So let's start off with the healing stuff and then make our way to the cards. So because Square wanted to divide our healers into two roles, pure and barrier healer, Astrologian was now going to function as the second pure healer. Because of this, they lost their sects, and you'll be playing as if you were in Diurnal sect. So if you're used to Diurnal, then nothing has changed to the healing aspect of the job. Diurnal Astro is now just Astro, and then of course the Nocturnal sect playstyle is gone. Outside of that, they also changed the radius for Earthly Star. If you've played with an Astro in Endwalker, then you've probably noticed this already, but the star is huge now. Missing it requires either a lot of dedication or for the Astro to place it on the other side of the planet. So while it's a bit comical for how big it is now, it is nice that players will almost never miss your star. So what about new stuff? Well, Malefic and Gravity were given upgraded versions, so new animation and more damage. It's still a damage gain to use Gravity starting from 2 targets. Celestial Intersection was given 2 charges, so amazing, can save a stack for a tank buster, and if it's about to cap, just give it to your tank. We were also given a new defensive skill in that of Exaltation. This grants a damage reduction to one party member, and after the damage reduction runs out, it will also heal the target. So it's the reverse of Sage's Tower Troll, because that heals and then gives the damage reduction. This gives the damage reduction and then heals after the fact, so amazing for tank busters, also great for dungeon trash pulls, etc. So really nice ability. Last but not least, we have Macrocosmos. This is a GCD that is also instant cast. It does the same damage as your Malefic, so if you're in a dungeon or in a multi-target scenario, then this is going to be a gain over using Gravity, and it's also a heal, but it's also got a special heal on top of that. So when you use it, it will apply a buff to all of your party members, and it will then store 50% of all the damage that they take during its duration. And then at the end of the duration, or when you reactivate the ability, it will heal you for 200 potency, plus all of the damage that has been stored in this buff. So you can use this as a normal free heal if there aren't really any good spots to use this in a fight, but for certain encounters this can be incredibly strong, either when you're taking multiple instances of damage in quick succession or where you take a lot of damage from one spell. Things that come to mind are the multi-hitting stack markers from the 2 extreme trials, and for the first extreme trial there's also a mechanic that drops you to 1 HP, so it's also great for that. And the best example where this ability is quite literally busted is for P3 Savage, where it turns into an AoE benediction. So in the right scenario this can be incredibly strong. So that does it for the healing side of things. Let's move on to the cards, as that's also a big part of the job. Yet again, card system has been reworked, and I'm not a fan, or at least not of everything that they have done. Divination is now not tied to your cards anymore. Back in Shadowbringers you wanted to get as many different seals as you could to get the maximum buff out of Divination, but now Divination is just a normal off global cooldown. You'll always get max value out of it. We did get a new off global cooldown though, Astrodyne, which now works with your seals instead. This is a personal buff that grants us a maximum of 3 buffs if we manage to get 3 different seals. For 1 seal we get mana regeneration, for 2 we get mana plus an attack speed buff, and for 3 we get mana, the attack speed buff, and a healing and a damage buff. Now, unfortunately enough, you can't guarantee 3 seals, because our cards have been changed, and because it's a personal buff, you'll always want to play your cards for your team's advantage, not for your own, because playing the wrong card to gain a different seal isn't going to be worth the trade-off in damage that you'll be gaining compared to what your team will be losing. The reason why we can't guarantee those 3 seals often is because of a few reasons, or well, 3 different seals I should say. So first off, Astrodyne doesn't have a cooldown, so you play 3 cards and you can use it. You can still choose to delay it for a little while so that it fits under raid buffs, but you'll generally want to use it before playing the next card so that you don't lose out on a potential usage of it. So what has changed about the cards that make it hard to get 3 different seals? Well, redraw is now only available once per card drawn. So before we had 3 stacks that we we could choose where to spend the stacks. If the card we drew was good, then we didn't need to redraw and could thus save the stacks for the next one. And if you had a bad card, then you could technically redraw it 3 times to try and get a better one if you had the stacks for it. The fact that you can now only redraw once per card means that if you get a good card, the redraw is wasted, and if you get a bad card twice in a row, well, tough luck. Sleeve draw has also been removed from the job, so that no longer helps mitigate bad RNG either, and Minor Arcana has also been changed back to a similar version that we had back in Stormblood, so that also no longer saves your seal gauge from gaining the wrong seals. It's now a normal off-global cooldown that grants you either an AoE heal if you draw a lady, or an AoE DPS off-global cooldown if you draw a lord. So all of these things make it hard for you to get 3 different seals, because it's mostly up to RNG now, and all of the tools that we had to mitigate that RNG were either removed or reworked. One last change to the cards is that draw now has 2 charges, meaning that we can save them for our 2-minute burst window. So we can draw a card 30 seconds before the burst, and then we can play that one and 2 more during the burst itself. This makes our burst incredibly busy, and this is why we started calling it card brain in our static, because during this 2-minute burst window you'll often be doing the following: drawing 2 cards and playing 3, using Divination plus Astrodyne, drawing and potentially playing a Minor Arcana, and then anything else you might have to do during that as well, like using off-global cooldown healing. It's so many off-global cooldowns that you're pretty much forced to save light speed for it, and that is on a 90-second cooldown. So you're going to be sitting on it for 30 seconds, and it also means that you can't use it for movement anywhere else. So what do I like and what do I not like, or how would I change things? The cards having 2 charges I kind of like and dislike at the same time. It's great for the burst window, as we get to pull more resources into that burst window so we can provide more damage to our team when it matters. But it also makes our burst window so busy that we almost don't have time left for any healing that might need to happen. Redraw only having 1 charge per card just feels bad. Also, if we were to get the charge system back like it was before, it's not like we'll get that many more redraws during our burst anyways, so that shouldn't make our burst feel that much more busy than it is right now. Minor Arcana is alright when progging your fight or just for casual play, but it feels bad in an optimized environment. When things are not optimized, you can use the Lady Heal to top people off or to replace another off-global cooldown that you would otherwise use. But because it's RNG if you'll get it or not, it means that you can't plan around it when optimizing a fight. So once something is optimized, you pulling a Lady is going to feel bad because that could have been damage instead. It's also 2 more buttons to fit on your hotbar, and also 2 more buttons to potentially press during your burst, so it adds to this "I have too much buttons to press during my burst" feeling. We have light speed to alleviate the double weaving mess that is our burst window, but that stops us from using it anywhere else. So giving it 2 charges would be a start to make it better. I wouldn't even be opposed to 2 charges in a shorter recast timer, like 60 seconds for example. That way you get to use it once for your burst and a second time anywhere else for movement. Since it's purely a movement and weaving tool now, sitting on 2 charges also isn't a bad thing. Would make us more mobile, but I don't see this breaking the game really. Out of all of these things, I hope that Minor Arcana gets some sort of change, either bring the previous version back or allow us to redraw the Lord or Lady or something, and then also give us the charges back on redraw and give us 2 charges on light speed. I think that would make us feel a whole lot better. Outside of that, I like the job a lot. The healing aspect of Astro is amazing and it feels great. It's just this 2-minute burst window that is very overwhelming if you want to play it right, and the cards feel bad when you get screwed by RNG, and this time there's really nothing to alleviate it. So I think that with some small changes, they could really improve on the job. Outside of that, what is there otherwise feels quite good. And that is going to do it for me for today. So I want to thank you for watching. I'm going to thank my Patreons for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.